So thank you so much for joining us on Let the Healing Begin podcast. I'm your host, Asia, and today we have Darlene Greene on with us. How are you doing, Darlene?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Asia. It's so good to see you and to be with you today.
Likewise. So we'll start with, where are you from?
Chandler, Arizona is where I'm living right now. And where I'm from is always a hard question because I moved around so much as an Air Force brat. My dad was an Air Force colonel and we moved a lot. And then I was in the Navy 20 years and we moved a lot. So right now home is Arizona, and that's where I plan on staying. So I can say Arizona.
Right. So like with you moving around a lot, for a while, do you ever miss that type of lifestyle?
No, I do not. I actually really love living in one place. I think it was really good for me and I enjoyed it growing up. I think I got to see more of the world and I learned more experiences, and I was sort of forced to make friends and make friends quickly, really, right? But it was a very interesting feeling when I finally settled and I'm like, this is where I'm going to live. I actually can get to know my neighbors, like really know my neighbors and invest in that. And I can invest in more around my yard and my house and just, yeah, it's just nice to settle.
That's nice. So let's go back to growing up. Like, what was that like for you?
I had a very, I've listened to a lot of your podcasts and a lot of your folks have not had a very blessed childhood. And I'm here to tell you that I really did. I had wonderful parents, a wonderful family. We did not struggle. They're both very loving and wonderful. You know, my upbringing was fantastic. I got to do a lot of sports. I was good in school and I had lots of friends. So I really had a great childhood. I really had it. Everything was sort of great through high school and then college. It all went sideways when I married the wrong man right out of college, And my sister and I often blame my dad for that because he's such a man of honor and integrity and character and goodness, treating my mom with such respect. He really modeled what a beautiful marriage looked like for us, that it never dawned on me or her that men lie and that men are duplicitous and that they are manipulative. And I just had no idea. I didn't see that coming from a mile away. So I had to learn pretty quickly.
Yeah. So do you have siblings?
I have one sister. She's
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys, did you ladies get along well, like growing up?
Not really. No, we're very close now. We're like besties now, but we did not get along that well. She said I was difficult to be a little sister of me because, I was captain of the cheerleading squad, captain of this, president of the National Honor Society. She said everything I did, I made it look easy and I was always the best at it. And she didn't have a place to shine in her words. And I didn't, of course, was oblivious to all of that. I was a protective big sister and kept her out of trouble in terms of, we didn't do alcohol or drugs or anything like that. But I don't think I was a very good friend, and I regretted that. And so when I had two daughters, I was like, you're going to be nice to each other, because I didn't do a very good job of that, and I regret that.
Yeah. So when you ladies had that conversation, like what prompted that?
So when, prompted the conversation to my daughters or to my
sister?
We had we took time. We really didn't even become close through college, after. I think she had to find herself, do her own thing, and be successful on her own terms, kind of garner her own self-confidence, and I could then say how proud of her I was, and really mean it, and I really like her. Like, she kind of grew into a person that I really liked. And I just can't say that I really liked her that much when she was younger. She was kind of annoying, little sister. You always want to be in the middle of everything, and you're just like, no. So I really enjoy, now she's the person that makes me laugh the most, and I can tell her anything, and I really am incredibly proud of her. I think she's an amazing human being, and she knows that I feel that way. I'm probably her biggest fan. She's probably my biggest fan. And I think we just developed that over time. I don't even remember one real conversation, although she'll throw out things about, she'll throw out stories. Like there was a story, probably the worst thing. I didn't get in trouble. I really didn't get in a lot of trouble growing up. But there is one thing I did that was really heartbreaking to my father. He had bestowed upon me his beloved Toyota Land Cruiser Jeep when he went to Alaska and I went to college. And I accidentally forgot to put oil or water or gas in it, and it ran out of all three of those, and the engine seized, and it broke, and it was just dead right there, right in the, just inches away from a gas station. And that is something she still loves to bring up and talk about, how I destroyed Dad's Jeep, and the whole family now laughs about it. But it was just funny because there aren't many of those kinds of stories for her to tell. But anyway, we just have plus she's right around the corner now from me. She's just less than a mile away. So that helps a lot.
That's nice. So I know you mentioned that you went to college. Like, what did you go for?
So I went to the University of Virginia, and I really didn't know what I wanted to major in. I was on a Navy ROTC scholarship, and I wanted to fly. My dad flew jets, and he would come home and say, "This is the coolest job in the world. I can't believe they pay me to do this." And I thought, wow, if you can get a job where you can actually say, "I can't believe they pay me to do this," that sounds like a great thing. And then somewhere in my second or third year of college, my eyes went bad. I'm wearing glasses, and I couldn't see the chalkboard from the same place I was sitting the year before. And that meant I would need to be a backseater. And I was already struggling a little bit with being a woman in a very man's Navy. I didn't want to be a backseater as well. And I was dating a guy that I ultimately married who was surface warfare, and the two communities didn't work well together. So I ended up sort of giving up my dreams of being a pilot and then doing shore-based management. So I studied initially as part of the scholarship. You were studying engineering or math or science, everything essentially. And I think I was a math major for 3 years. And then my last year, I found out that they didn't care what I majored in at the end. And I had really very little liberal arts. So I shifted my degree to English so that I could get some liberal arts in there and enjoy something that I loved, and became an English major. And then everything outside of my major was science and math. And that worked really well. I was surprised actually by how well that served me, because one of my first jobs in the Navy was a public affairs officer job where I ended up publishing a newspaper and editing and writing and doing a lot of communication.
That's nice. That's nice. I know you mentioned that you had gotten married. Like, how long were you married to this particular person?
Yeah, we got married the weekend I graduated. I actually I think Friday I was commissioned, and Saturday I graduated, and Sunday I got married, or 3 days in a row. So the whole family was in. And I'll tell you, it was a matter of months that I realized this was sideways and going to be a problem. But you're married, you think you're married for life, and you're going to make it work, and you're going to figure it out. And it was probably the second year that I thought, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to figure this out. And then the third or fourth year, when I realized, when there was emotional abuse, but when it got to be physically abusive, I knew I had to get out, that it wasn't going to get better. It was only going to get worse. And he wasn't even remotely sorry. That there was no, I talked about counseling, and he would go to counseling to try to protect the marriage, but I wasn't interested in protecting the marriage at that point. I was interested in figuring out how to get out safely. And so I think it was about 6 years by the time I was able to get out. And when I did go to get out, I discovered he had he had spent all of our savings. He'd opened up a new visa I didn't know about. He charged $16,000 on that. I mean, it was just like a nightmare, and figuring out how to get out without incurring his temper was really scary. And so I ended up like, you can have everything. I just let me go. Like thinking if I could just get out of this and he feels like it's a really good deal, then maybe he'll leave me alone.
And so let's say we have a listener in that same situation. What would you say to that listener?
Wow. Yeah. You do need to get out. And I think getting support around you and telling people. I didn't do a very good job of telling people. My mom and dad didn't know we even had a trouble in the marriage until I walked out the door. Like until I said I'm leaving. I was too embarrassed to tell them, and or my sister, quite honestly. So I didn't tell my friends. I didn't tell anybody. And so leaving was a surprise to a lot of people. And when I did finally tell my dad, I was feeling a lot of guilt. And the guilt was because I'd made a commitment. For God and all my friends, I'd said forever and ever, right? Till death do us part. And my dad said something to me at the time that I've never forgotten. He said, guilt is a wasted emotion, and you just transfer that guilt to me onto my shoulders and I'll take it for you. You don't need to feel it. Everyone in the world has a right to happiness, and nobody deserves the treatment that you have received. Actually, at the time, it was probably a really good thing my dad was in Alaska, because I think he could have he could have gotten violent with him. So I think telling somebody, making sure you're getting support, more support than maybe I had. And I do think, you need to take a look. First of all, I should never have had my head in the sand around the finances. Like, don't ever do that. If you're married to anyone, you should know where your finances are. You should know how things are going. I did trust him, and I think it's great to trust someone, but trust but verify, because I was really kind of oblivious to that. And I should have not been, because he had enough of a temper and he was manipulative enough, and I had known that early enough where I should have been more aware.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, if you don't mind me asking. So when you first brought up to him about leaving, what was his reaction to that?
He cried. I said, I don't like you anymore. It's not that I don't even love you anymore, but I don't even like you anymore. I don't ever want you to be the father of my children. You're not a grown-up yourself. You are not capable of putting other people before yourself. And he wanted to try to make it work. But I was way, by the time I really left, I was way past a point of return. And he actually said, I don't understand what went wrong. You haven't even told me what was going wrong. And I said, how can you say that? I have been telling you, I've been screaming it from mountaintops all these years, what I needed and what you have been doing. And I read a lot. I came out of that marriage still feeling very responsible. Not, obviously it takes two, and I don't feel like it was my fault, but I feel like I shouldn't have been married. I should have seen signs. There should have been things that clued me in to not marry him to begin with. And when I look back on it, there were red flags. There were signs that I just shoved down and let my prefrontal cortex overrule my emotional, instinctive animal brain, hairs on the back of your neck standing up. And I really regret that. I didn't really know, even then, I didn't really understand the animal brain. I didn't understand how critical our instincts are and how smart they are. And so I didn't learn that till after husband number 2. And that was a big mistake too. But I was just still so young and dumb, quite honestly.
It's okay. It happens, but that still doesn't make it okay for you to be treated in the ways that you were, right?
No. And, as hard as it was to leave, the real heartbreak, and this sounds so strange, because it still hurts. Like, divorcing him was easy. Having him out of my life was easy. It was desired, right? That's what I wanted. But I found out somewhere along the way that he was sleeping with my best friend, that I had confided in, and that we were still doing things together. We were still seeing each other regularly, and she didn't tell me. Like, it had been going on for months, and I don't even know how many months. I don't know how long. I don't know. And but that felt like a huge betrayal, worse than anything, because this was a true dear friend that I really loved. And so I kind of lost her in the mix and said, okay, I obviously can't trust her either. And so that was, and I actually really hurt over that for decades. I think I still kind of hurt over that, actually, that because she knew there had been physical violence. She saw the scars, she saw the blood, like she saw it. So I don't understand how you go into when you know that has happened. Like, what are you thinking? So yeah, I missed her. I never missed him, but I really missed her, and I missed our friendship, and I missed, I just missed her. I missed that. Yeah.
So when you found out, like, did you ever get it? Did you two ever talk about it at all, or you just kind of washed your hands with that?
No, part of what I was really angry with is that she wasn't the one that told me that he was. He said she wanted to be the one, and he told her no, that he wanted to be the one to tell me. And that was sort of unforgivable, because he loved telling me and just kind of screwing it in, right? And making sure I really understood. But that was hard for me. And I just said, I wish you guys happiness, and I won't be talking to either of you ever again. And I never did, never talked to either of them again.
So let me ask you this. When you, like, after you left, like, outside of that, like, what did you do first to kind of, like, get your life back in order?
Well, the good news is I had my job, and I was in a really responsible position with other people to take care of. And, I was in the Navy. I was in an officer in charge position, and I had 60 people that worked for me, and there were men and women and civilians and military, and lots of departments, and lots of money, and lots of customers, thousands and thousands, right? So that was easily able to take my focus. I went into a place that was a protected, secure community. I did worry a lot. I was scared. I was having to work on my health because I had migraines, and I had, things. So I was learning how to deep breathe. I was learning how to manage stress, really. That was the beginning of learning how to manage stress. I had all of a sudden thyroid issues. I really do believe that one of the most important decisions you ever make is who you choose to be with. And when it goes sideways, it can cause all sorts of issues for your health. And it was the beginning of my issue. I ended up having to have thyroid surgery. I really had to learn how to breathe differently. I had biofeedback to learn how to just kind of just relax, even when I was working intently. And so I did those kinds of things. But I also jumped, unfortunately, too quickly into the next relationship. I didn't spend enough time, I think, alone and processing. And I think I was in a place of vulnerability and, need, but I think that warped my sense of visibility around me.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. At any time, like, because I know you said you went into the next relationship fairly fast, but like prior to actually going into that relationship, was there any fear based on the things that had happened in the first relationship?
Well, sure. There was a lot of fear. I didn't trust, right? I didn't trust people, and men, women, right? Anybody. So I thought I was going to be really, really careful. And and I really thought I was being careful, but when I look back, and again, there were signs. I mean, they were very vastly different. So one was really loud and really aggressive and really, like, demonstrative, very smart, very fun, life of the party, kind of controlling. But the other was much more soft-spoken and gentle, and kind of this gentle soul, right? So I thought I was getting something entirely different.
That's good. So, so let me ask you this. Do you, like, looking back at that period of your life, do you have any regrets?
I really do. I really regret marrying husband one, and I really regret starting the relationship with husband two. And I have two beautiful children from husband two. So I say that, I realized I wouldn't have my two fabulous daughters without having married my second husband. But that was a really big mistake, and they have suffered as a result of what happened. Was he was a narcissist, and I know you've had people talk about narcissism, and it's something that's really hard to see initially because they're so charming and they put on such a great mask.
Yeah.
He was obsessive compulsive personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder, but he looked like, he was from the Naval Academy. He had 2 master's degrees. His neighbors loved him. They brought him bread, and he took care of their fish, and he shoveled the parkway in the front of the little old lady across the street. He did all of these really sweet things. And so it never dawned on me that, and I thought I took a long time. I really didn't marry him until I wanted to have children. I mean, I didn't feel like I needed to get married until I wanted to have children, but then I really did want to have children. And so looking back on that, I still missed, he was nobody lies as well as a narcissist. And I'm not really sure if that's because I don't even know that they know that they're lying. Like, I think that they just rewrite history in their head. Like, it's just their world, their truth, so they lie so beautifully that you don't know it's a lie. There's not even a clue that it's a lie, So yeah, I do have regrets around that, serious regrets around that.
Yeah. And I've dealt with a narcissist before, and I didn't realize that I was dealing with a narcissist until after I had broken free from that. And it's like, oh my gosh, you've had me fooled all this time, and it's like some of those lies, they sound like the truth, right off the back. And then you think about it and you're like, no,
Yeah.
So how long were you and the second husband married?
Same, 6.5 years, although it took a while to get out, and we battled in court 10 years. I mean, we got a bifurcation so that I could be divorced while there was a restraining order in place. And then we had 10 years of battle in court. It was really 6 or 7 years before I got full custody, and both physical and legal custody. But then I moved, and then he brought it all back on and said I wasn't allowed to move, and I was in contempt of court, and off we went again. And it broke the bank because the legal fees were astronomical, and that created a trauma for me of a different sort. I would get bills in the mail that were, $40,000 for this month, and I would be it was like monopoly money. It's like that does not compute. How can anybody even think you could spend that much? So it was not only me paying for my lawyer, but it was me paying for our daughters. Our kids had a lawyer to represent their interests, and there was, the court itself was very traumatic for me. It felt like getting shotgunned in the chest by lies that just, they would just throw everything up and hope something would stick. And I'm trying to be honest and fact-based, and I'm in a system that doesn't necessarily reward that. So it just took a really long time. I I mean, I had PTSD from it, and I didn't even know you could get PTSD from court or from all of this. I thought PTSD was really only for, the people that had gone to war and back, but I did. I would have, the doorbell would ring and I would start to shake. I would get an official envelope and I would start to shake. Like I just didn't realize how bad it was. But I got through it. I had a therapist. I got therapy. I was at one point seeing a therapist 2 or 3 times a week. Wow. Just to survive through this and to take care of myself well enough so that I never took it out on the kids, because I was now single parenting and trying to do my job. And I had a therapist say to me, I don't know how you're not, crawled up on a curb, just like not making any sense and just babbling, because of the things that were done that we were constantly fighting through. And when I say that, it was about protecting my children. It was not to me, it was, I was struggling to protect them. And that's their story. And I don't get into their story because it's their story, but they will forever be dealing with the boundary violations of a narcissistic father. And a mama lion wants to protect her baby cubs, and there's just no stronger force, right? So you figure it out and you get through it, and you do what you have to do.
Absolutely. And you know what, like now that you've made it out, I'm so grateful that you've made it out to, share your story. But now that you have made it out, like you look back and you realize how strong you just are, right?
Yeah, I actually, I didn't know. I mean, you really never know until you're tested, right?
Yeah.
You really just have no idea. It could have crippled me. I remember friends every week saying that your life could be a Hallmark movie or one of those Lifetime movies. And they would come over and they would, they're such good girlfriends. They would say, all right, we've created a new plot on how to kill him. They would walk through this murder scenario and they would be, what do you think? Poisonous darts at concert in the park. And I'm like, no, because your DNA is going to be on the saliva in the straw. And they're like, oh, dang it. So then the next week they'd come in, we have a new plan. And it was just humorous. Obviously they had no intention of doing any of that, but it was a way of making me laugh. And they were just sort of good camaraderie. But no kidding. I think though, as someone who had lived such a blessed childhood and growing up, it was a very shocking reality. And I will say this, I think I went through a lot of my life before all of this completely oblivious and unaware of other people's pain. I don't think I even noticed it. And once I had gone through this myself, I was a different person as a result. I could see it in other people. And I will tell you that trauma of that second husband and all of that court and my own PTSD and my own therapy and my own all of that was what enabled me to see in my final job in the Navy as a commanding officer that I had sailors returning from war that were not doing okay. And we were not doing anything about it. And so I helped to start a program called the Returning Warrior Weekend program that was to help them reintegrate and to help their spouses, to help the two of them reintegrate. And it was really a program that you would think would already be in existence, right? I mean, we're not in Vietnam anymore. Surely there's something I could just go swipe off the shelf and borrow. But that was not the case at all. There was nothing out there that wasn't everything was for units. And what was happening was these people were being picked up and sent over as individuals. So they were coming back as individuals very much alone and not aware that anybody else was having the same experience as they were. And the spouses were completely isolated as well. So by pulling them all together, we basically established a curriculum, we created facilitators, we pulled the best from the particular things that were in development in the worldwide. And then we also created things that we knew would be helpful to get people talking about their experience in a way that was not going to re-traumatize them or cause them to trigger, because we knew we were dealing with a lot of people with PTSD. We brought in therapists that had the ability to do eye movement desensitization reprocessing, EMDR, right on site. We had counselors and chaplains, and we had medical nurses and doctors, and we had the entire support team outside of where we were, but available to talk about VFW and VA and all of the different benefits. And we had keynote speakers and small group discussions, including a small group discussion that was on something as simple as why I want to go back. And, you know, it was just destroying marriages because the people, the warrior would come back and they would be home less than a week and they would say, I have to get back. I'm signing up to get back there. And the spouse is like, are you kidding me? You've been gone a year. I've taken care of everything. And you're talking, do you not love me? I mean, this was just really hard for them. So when you put 10 people in a room in a small group discussion and you ask how many of you want to go back, and they all raise their hand, the spouses look at one another and they go, okay, there's something else going on here. This is not about me at all.
Yeah.
And so they learned what that was about, and they then learned that this was part of the process. There was this process that they had to go through, that the warrior had to go through, and we kind of taught them a lot about that. That program was developed 17 years ago, and it's still in existence today, helping people. So I just love that. And my team, the people that I built that with, we're still friends and we still get together occasionally. And I love that too.
That's awesome. And you know what? You just said something that I was going to say to you. Like, you had to go through all that just to be able to have the tools that you need, you know, to establish that curriculum and that program for so many other people. Like, you know, and look at it now, you know, it's still standing, you know. But what better way to do it from a lived experience aspect, right? Because you have that lived experience, so you have, you know, empathy.
Yeah, I had the empathy. I just don't even, I look back at my high school self and my college self, and I just think I was completely oblivious and unaware. I was just living this little happy life, you know? I just had no idea that people were in pain. Yeah,
a lot of people too, and in different types of pain, you know?
Yes.
And it's just so sad, you know? So now that you're out of that, like what was life looking like for you once you had gotten out of that and healed and developed a program? And
that was really that was years of healing, right? That did not happen overnight. And you know, in fact, I will say I thought I was kind of really over it. It's been 30 years, right? But my daughter actually said she wanted to see some documents. And I said, no, you don't really want to see anything. And I didn't even have that much. Like I had warehouses of stuff that I threw out. And she said, no, I really do. So I had to go through some emails, and I don't even have that much available, but I went through and I went to get some stuff and hand her a few things. And when I was going through it, you know, my heart started racing, my chest started to seize. Yeah. Oh, wow, I thought I would, you know, you think you're kind of fine, but you sort of put yourself back in it, and you're really not fine. Mm-hmm. But I will say, I was never going to date again. Never. I was like, I don't trust my judgment at all. So let's just start with that. And along the way, I met my current husband. And I told him flat out, like, I'm not dating. I'm never dating. Like, I'm just, I can do group things, but that's just it. Like, I'm just not dating. Like, it's just not going to happen. Yeah. I'm focused on these girls. This is my life. And he's really an angel from above. I've now been married 17 years, and he continues to impress me every year. He is just the most beautiful human on the planet. He's an angel on all aspects. Very, you know, very sweet and very patient. So when I eventually said, okay, we can go on a date, after many group things, he just contrived all these group things, like group sailing, group dinners, group, party, group whatever. And we did this for a really long time until I kind of thought, okay, and plus we're going to be apart. He was going to be on a different coast than me. So what, okay, we can go on a date because you're moving. But then we did a telecommunication dating essentially for years, really, because we were in different places. But what that did was it gave me time to heal, and it gave me time to talk. Like, our relationship was based on talking and the fundamentals of a friendship. And it was my daughters who were like, you need to marry him. I'm like, don't talk about marriage. We're not talking about marriage, you know? And I would say to him, you know, he would talk about marriage, and I'd say, look, we can be engaged forever, but just don't ask me to walk down the aisle. I would start physically shaking when someone started, and I would talk to my therapist. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And she's like, Darlene, just give yourself time, you know. But over time I did heal, and I realized I would be really, really lucky to be married to him. It would be such a gift, and it has been not only a gift to me, but such a gift to our daughters to see what a marriage is supposed to look like, what a husband is supposed to behave like, and how it's all supposed to look. And my eldest daughter will say she would never be married right now if it weren't for Jim, because she would not have trusted men enough to know that what it looked like, and to see what love looked like. And she feels like she married someone very much like my husband. So yeah, so that took many years though, Ashia. It was a process of watching him with my daughters, because I wasn't going to even introduce my daughters to him until I thought this was forever, because they didn't need to go through that. And he really had to prove himself, and he really did over and over again.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. Congratulations on your guys' 17 years too.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's major. That's awesome.
Yeah. So imagine then the heartbreak when we find out he's got early Alzheimer's. You know, that was devastating. And I was like, really, we finally have it right. And I finally, you know, we are so happy. We have had the most blissful marriage, probably the best marriage I've ever seen anyone ever have. We just have had such an easy, loving, wonderful marriage. So when he got Alzheimer's, you know, initially there's this, well, we're going to fight it. We're going to figure it out. We're going to fight it, and we're going to do something. The decline that he experienced though was he went from the stage of mild cognitive impairment, which is, you know, I'm forgetting things, but I'm functional, to the cognitive ability of a 5-year-old, and unable to dress himself, unable to figure out how to put the shirt on, unable to put him in the right order, not knowing this toothpaste is toothpaste that goes on a toothbrush, and that's not, you know, shaving cream doesn't go there, and all of those things within like 2 years. And so that is lightning fast. Normally that takes like 11 to 13 years, but because he's young, so early Alzheimer's is more aggressive, and because he has the gene type from both his mom and his dad, then he has it faster. And so we were trying everything. We went out of country for stem cells, placenta stem cells, 4 times at very high expense. That didn't do anything. We tried hyperbaric chamber. That didn't do anything. We tried, we've completely revamped the diet. We took out alcohol and soda and white sugar and white flour and anything that wasn't very clean, or had to be organic, grass-fed, grass-finished. We worked on his sleep protocol to get the best deep sleep, and I mean, we did everything you could do. We put red lights in the bedroom. We get our eyes on the morning sun. We're stopped eating 3 hours before bed. We're doing all of the things, and the decline just continued to the point where I really had lost him. I had lost him, and he was napping 3.5 hours a day, plus then falling asleep at 7 at night. He was disengaged from conversation. He wasn't even trying to have a conversation. His personality is to be funny. Like, he's just always making jokes and being funny, which for the first time when we were dating, when we first started to be together, it was the first time I trusted my animal brain, because it was like the clouds parted and the sun shined in. Like that's how it was every time I was with him. He made me laugh. He brought the sun, and so what was heartbreaking for me was when he was no longer even trying to be funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd really lost him. And that's when, I was introduced to LifeWave's stem cell activation patches, and I was desperate. So I did not read all the 90 clinical studies. I had not investigated this. I had a friend who said this changed our lives. I'm like, I'm in. If it activates stem cells, your own stem cells, I am in. And we tried it out. And that very first week, he was awake. He didn't nap at all. He didn't fall asleep at 7. I kept looking at him like, are you going to fall asleep in the TV show? And he didn't. He was engaged in conversation like a dam broke, and he had 2 years worth of stuff to say. And it was so much fun because he was funny again, and he was flirty again, and he was back to being my husband again. And he's still like that. And then we've been on the patches 11 months. So he's still, and he's had other gains. He had, his hair has grown back. My hair has grown crazy, but his blood pressure dropped 37 points. He's experienced the best sleep he's had with like an hour and 25 minutes of deep sleep instead of 15 minutes. He regained his sense of smell actually at the 5-month mark, which is a huge neuro thing, right? But he had lost that 15 years ago. That is a really big sign of Alzheimer's. A lot of people don't know that, and it's not if it's connected to COVID or a virus like that, but when it's just kind of out of the blue, you probably should get it checked, because I didn't know when he lost his sense of smell it was an early sign of Alzheimer's, but I wish I would have. So a lot of these things have remained fantastic, and I've had my husband and the quality of life that I've needed. And of course, I've experienced my own amazing benefit from the patches. And so the thing that they have done, they lifted my depression. They helped me with 3 autoimmune disorders, thanks to my ex-husbands. I've been chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, POTS, check, all of the things that happen when you are under chronic stress like this, right? So, but all of that just sort of stopped. I don't have symptoms of these things anymore, and I'm not passing out anymore from POTS. I don't need a medicine to raise my blood pressure anymore. I don't have any of those symptoms. And the best part is that it lifted my depression. And that was really huge, because it's a really hard place to be a care provider. And it takes a lot out of you. And it's a very sad journey to watch your best friend decline, and to lose what you thought you had going, what you thought your life would look like is completely remapped overnight. And that is not what it's going to be. We can't travel anymore. We can't, there's a lot of things we can't do, and he needs someone around at all times. And so my life has completely changed overnight, but the patches have made that quality of life so much better for me and for him. And then of course there's the ability to gift this knowledge to other people, and all of the feedback I get of, oh my goodness, I'm out of pain. I'm feeling so much better. I have all of these improvements, and it's all because you shared these patches with me. So the silver lining of this has really been the LifeWave stem cell activation patches that I know you have your own experience with, right? So
I do. And before I give some feedback on my experience, can you describe briefly like what it is exactly that they are?
Yeah. So let me just show a picture of one. This is a patch. It's a quarter size for people listening. It's the size of like a quarter, and it is a non-transdermal patch that reflects your own light back into you at a very specific wavelength. So if I told you, and when you go out in the sun, your body makes vitamin D, that's photobiomodulation, or it makes melanin for a suntan. Well, your body has a chemical response to those light waves, and people have been taking advantage of light therapy for 5,000 years. It's nothing new. People are doing infrared saunas. They're doing red light therapy, blue light therapy. People are doing it to get rid of wrinkles. There's all sorts of people using light therapy, but they forget that we have light inside of us. So if I looked at you with night vision goggles on, I would see light inside of you. So what this patch is doing is it's like a little mirror. It's a lattice structure of nanocrystals hermetically sealed in the patch. So nothing is going in your body, reflecting your light back into you at a very specific wavelength that elevates a copper peptide called GHKCU. And that copper peptide is miraculous. It's been studied for 50 years. It has the ability to do so many things, even beyond stem cell activation. But stem cell activation is perhaps the one that's the most beneficial for me and my husband right now. But there are huge anti-cancer effects. It actually resets the programmed cell death of human cancer cells, and it repairs the damaged DNA of cells. It resets genes to their more optimal state. So, and not like there are 84 cancer genes that it resets to cancer inhibition, but there are 4,000 genes that are reset within just the first 24 hours of wearing the X39 patch. It does amazing things for the brain and the nerves and the heart. And there are, as I mentioned, I hadn't read any of the 90 clinical studies before I started patching, but I will tell you I've read every one of them now, because they're amazing. The things that they have found, I'm like, why has my depression lifted? Well, there's a study in 2019 that shows that they did the EEGs and they can see the visuals, and it shows that it's not only increasing GHKCU, which is tested through blood work in a double-blind placebo-controlled study, but it also supported cell and nerve regeneration, balanced the brain, improved coherence, improved the nervous system, lowered anxiety, decreased brain inflammation, improved memory and focus and cognitive brain function, and task processing ease and speed. And I got to watch that in my husband, but I also got to experience it myself. And then there's a heart study on X39 where every 6 weeks the cardiovascular system is behaving as if it's 8 weeks younger. So this is it's a miraculous patch, and it won't surprise you to find out that I was really sort of pissed off when I found out that there are all these pro athletes, Serena Williams and David Beckham and Michael Phelps, and over 300 Olympic athletes wore them in the 2008 Olympic championships. I'm like, what? And then now I find out Tom Brady and the Kansas City Chiefs are wearing them, and I'm like, but where do you hear about them? Mm-hmm. Where is it on the news? Where is it in the newspaper? Where is it on the front of Time magazine? Where? And you don't, because this is going to kill the business model that Big Pharma has a lock on, and they own government and the media, and they don't want this news to get out. So I did a lot of research, and I did not run across this. And I think if I would have, 3 years ago, before, when we were in an earlier stage, I think it could have really changed our trajectory dramatically. I know we wouldn't be where we are today. I don't know where we would be, but I know it wouldn't be where we are today.
Yeah. And you know what? So I just walked into month 3 of using the patches, and I feel like a completely different person. Like I can see just so many different areas in my life that have changed. I'm getting better sleep at night. Like when I get up in the morning, I'm not feeling as tired. I don't feel tired. I'm feeling good and ready to start my day. Throughout my day, I'm feeling more productive. The mood swings, they're not bad like they were. And then I just started the Alvita patch, and I'm seeing a big difference with my skin. Even like you said, with my hair, like I was just looking at it a few days ago, like last week before I got this done. And even my friend is like, your hair is growing really good. I'm like, it is, isn't it? It is, isn't it? I'm like, it's getting long. Yeah, but now I've started on these patches, and now I just got a delivery today with the patches. So I'm like, yeah, they're amazing. I love them.
They are amazing. They do. You're right. That I forgot about the huge energy upswing that I experienced. I was in the kitchen whipping up meals, thinking, I don't know why I hated cooking. I don't know why I hated cooking. Cooking is fine. But I will tell you, I just didn't have the energy to cook at the end of a work day and taking care of Jim and doing all that I'm doing. And so when you do have the energy, you can be so much more productive and I don't think most, I didn't know when you're 30, half of your stem cells are dormant. And when you're 60, there's very few that remain active. Like I'm 59. And so for me, they were almost all dormant. Now, a month for every decade you are old will activate them all and, get them all functioning again. So I love that. And for people who don't know how powerful stem cells are, they're your body's raw materials. They repair, they regenerate, they can become anything in your body. They can become bone, muscle, cartilage, ligament. They reduce inflammation. They can become brain, heart, lung, liver, kidney, whatever. The first two cells that came together, pluripotent stem cells, developed you and kept developing, and they reproduced until they developed you. And there's this great quote that I love from a Dr. Joseph Peck. He's an anesthesiologist and a 40-year physician. And he says, your health is your greatest wealth, which I totally agree with. And then he says that this X39 patch, all of these patches, are the most significant medical breakthrough in my lifetime. That's his quote. And I agree with him. I think it can change the face of medicine. And there's more exciting things coming out. I just got a little glimpse into our inventor and owner talking about a new technology, and I don't know when it's going to come out, but it gives me an enormous amount of hope and excitement because it's different than the patches, but it's all about reverse aging and healing. So I'm super excited about that, and I'm just like, get it out here, let's do it.
Right. So one last question. If people want to work with you, how can they find you?
They can go to my website, which is iamreverseaging.com. That's iamreverseaging.com. And, they can not only reach out to me by email there and tell me where they're from and tell me that they heard through your podcast, so that I can make sure that we connect them properly. But I can get them connected with a doctor that can answer their questions, because I have a regular Thursday standing webinar that I do, and the doctor's on the call and we answer questions, any questions that you have. And I can also, you can also on that website, you can look at all the 90 clinical studies. You can read the patent. You can see videos on how is this really working. You can see a beautiful before and afters of 4 bulging discs over here that are, impossible to do anything with surgically or medically. And yet here it is 14 months later on just the X39 patch, and it's completely, elite, it's just perfect. That you can see people looking so much younger. And there's a lot on the website. You could spend days on the website really and not get through it all, but that's the best way to reach out to me. And I absolutely love helping people with this. I have really, there are times when I have dear friends of mine and I'm just like buying patches for them because they can't afford it, but they have MS, or they, it's not, there is a business associated with this. That is not why I'm in it. I have a day job. I'm a director of client services for a network and technology company, and that is my day job, and that pays the bills. This feeds my soul because I can't think of anything that is better for me right now in what I'm going through than to help other people, to sort of take the focus off of my own self and our own woe is us, right? And actually help other people in a way that we can. And that feedback is just is lovely. It feeds my heart.
That's awesome. I appreciate you coming on here.
I appreciate you and all that you're doing with your podcast, Ashia. It's just fabulous. And you have a way of getting people to crack open and tell you stories that I have not shared with anyone, some of that. So I'm a little like, I can't believe I said that. We're going to be publishing this. Oh my goodness.
Well, and this is the perfect place for it.
Yeah, it's safe. It's a safe place. And I think that, people look at other people and they think, oh, they've got it all together. And, they haven't got a care in the world. I remember daughters always growing up looking at all of their friends and thinking they have it all together. And I was the dean of a boarding school at one point. I'm like, you think they have it all together, but let me just tell you, nobody has it all together the way you think that they do. And as a grown-up adult, I think we think we're the only ones sometimes that are going through things that are hard, but I really think everyone is going through something hard. And it's by bravery like yours that has inspired me to be brave back, because I'm like, well, if she can tell her story and be that vulnerable and that transparent, I can tell my story, and maybe it helps somebody get out of a situation and have the courage and know that there is amazing love and life after heartache, that and silver linings that you can always find from the challenges that you face, and you're just getting building character. We have lots of character, don't we, Ashia?
Yeah. And you know what I found, like with sharing my story, because it can be intimidating at first, but what I found is the more that I share my story is the more healing that takes place, right? The more I talk about those things that nobody wants to talk about, the more healing that it brings. Because first of all, I would say the biggest hurdle is getting over what are people going to think? Yeah. I just adopted the way of thinking, like, who cares what they think? Literally everybody is struggling with something, whether it's this or that or that or this. We all are struggling with something or another. We are human. We are not made to be perfect. We're just not made that way. So right. It's okay. So it's like, so what they think? What is anybody going to do? So you just kind of gotta just go with the flow, and then just keep in mind, like, other people are going through other things, and some people are going through way worse stuff, and it's like, why I don't want to keep silencing the things that need to be said, as you said. If I come forth, that can help somebody in their healing process or healing state, and it brings me more healing too,
It's a win-win.
Yeah. So I'm really grateful. Yeah, I appreciate you being brave and, getting up here on this platform and, being vulnerable in spaces that I know don't always feel good, but doing it for the greater good.
Yeah. It's, if I just, I hope there's someone really young listening that doesn't even know about the animal brain yet. Go look at the animal brain, understand your animal brain, honor your animal brain, right? Really trust the hairs on the back of your neck. And when they stand up, pay attention. When you think someone is lying, yeah, probably they are.
Yeah.
Probably they are.
Yep. And you know what? My mom used to say, pay attention to that still small voice in the back of your head. Pay attention to, if you're around somebody or if somebody's saying something and you just don't feel right with what's going on, pay attention to that. Don't try to silence that. Let that,
That's right.
Let that speak to you.
Talk yourself out of it. You let that prefrontal cortex just sort of make up excuses and talk yourself out of those feelings of, I don't think this is right. This doesn't seem right. This doesn't make sense. And yet,
And oftentimes society tells us to kind of just go with the flow, even when things don't seem right. And it's like, no.
You need to honor yourself. You need to honor yourself.
Absolutely. And surround yourself with people that want to see you honor yourself, right? If you are around people, they'll be like, okay, I understand, I give you that space too, or if you don't feel okay with that, that's fine, support, whatever it is, I really want to see more people get out of I guess silencing self and going with the feelings and the thoughts and emotions of others, or trying to save face for other people, right?
I think that, I often think back to my dad's words, you have a right to happiness. You have a right to happiness, but no one's going to make that for you. You have to take it. You have to build it. You have to decide it every day.
Yep.
And that guilt is such a wasted emotion. Learn from it, right? Figure out what happened and try not to do that again.
Yeah.
But don't wallow in it. There's just no benefit of that.
And you know what? Another important part of that too is on your way to being happy, right? There's going to be some people that don't want to see you happy, right? And that's okay, you know, but let that don't let that be the deciding factor. You know, you got to choose you and choose your happiness and stay true to that, you know.
Yeah, and stay away from those people that don't want you to be happy.
Because the people that are meant to find you, they'll find you. You won't miss them, you know, the people that are meant to be, you know. So you're welcome back anytime. When they roll out this new technology, I want you to come back on.
I will. I'm excited to share with you as soon as I know it, because I've heard that him say if it takes like 7 weeks for a bone to heal, this technology did it in 1 hour.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now he also said we'll never be able to make all the claims of all of the things that this technology can do, because the FDA will never let us get away with that. But we will be able to show remarkable, that there will be testimonials and all goodness. And I go with my husband in the study. I want to be in the study. I'm like, where are we and how do we get our hands on this technology right away? Because I love our inventor. I love David Schmidt. He is a beautiful human who will talk about the fact that his ideas for these patches and the technology that he has were downloaded from the divine. You know, he has over 150 patents on the really anti-aging and regenerative science, and he's got not just one, but 2 advanced technology awards from the International Hall of Fame.
I don't know what that is.
Sounds impressive, doesn't it? Yeah. And the first patches were, I love this because I was a Navy commander, right? I love that the first patches were actually developed for Navy SEALs. Really? So, you know, that is really cool that he was contracted by the government to develop that. And you know, what a lot of people don't realize, so you may have an international audience, Ashia, that we are distributed in over 87 countries now. So we can there's no prescription required. They get mailed to your door. And then you put them on. There's no contraindications with any medicine. You can do any therapy you're currently doing. It's all.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Let the Healing Begin podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Ashia. A couple ways to support. You can head over to www.greatergrowthllc.com, purchase a t-shirt or a sweatshirt. You can also head on over to Amazon, purchase a copy of Back in My Day by Asia Wilson. You can also check out our link tree tagged in the caption. Thank you so much, and until next time.